Welcome to Tales from the Fandom, a podcast that brings a special guest out of the multiverse and straight to you. And now your host, David Ginsburg.
Hey guys, welcome to Tales from the Fandom podcast. Today's episode, we have a great cosplayer from England. Her name is Dania. She goes by Hijabi Hooligan. She's a Hijabi cosplayer. So her episode is going to be coming up next. However, I did want to mention something that's going on our Facebook page, Tales from the Fandom. Right now, we are doing a push to get 500 likes on the Facebook page. And for everybody that likes the page and shares a podcast episode onto your own Facebook page or wherever you share it to, you get entered into a Tales from the Fandom prize box. And right now, that prize box has 4 major items: a $15 iTunes gift card, an Agent Carter Funko Pop, and then 2 books written by previous guests. One is Kevin Hearn's Iron Druid Chronicles, book number 1, Hounded, and then Matt Forbeck's Leverage book that came out called The Con Job, which is, they're both great books. They're both great series. You should definitely read the Iron Druid Chronicles. The Leverage book, if you love the show, you will love this book. I mean, it takes place at San Diego Comic-Con. What more could you ask for? So definitely go to our Facebook page, like the Facebook page, make sure you're subscribing to the podcast on iTunes or whichever app you prefer, and then share those episodes. Each share of a podcast episode gets you an entry into the drawing. Once we hit 500 likes, I'll be doing a random drawing and getting this box mailed out to somebody. And I would love it to be a faithful listener to the episodes. So definitely go and check that out. And before Dania's episode gets started, I did get a promotion for another podcast called Zeng This, Zeng This. Something you guys should check out. So take a listen to their promo and then enjoy the episode. Catch you guys later.
Do you like video games?
Do you like comics?
Do you like movies?
I'm Ellie.
I'm Zinger, and we're the host of
Zing This Podcast.
We discuss nerdy topics every week on our podcast. What are some of the best ways to find our podcast, Ellie?
You can search us on SoundCloud,
iTunes,
Google Play,
and Stitcher.
and don't forget that's Zeng.
This! We hope to see you guys there. Every week, we have new nerdy topics.
Yay!
Welcome to Tales from the Fandom, the podcast that brings a special guest out of the multiverse and straight to you. Today's guest is Dania from the great country of England. She is a 21-year-old hijabi cosplayer from the northeast of England. She's been part of the cosplay scene for about 3 years now, and she enjoys creating many different costumes for all sorts of events, from charity events to conventions to local geek meets. And she also goes by the name Hijabi Hooligan on Facebook, which you might know her best from. Welcome to Tales from the Fandom, Dania.
Hi, thank you so much.
Oh, not a problem. Thank you so much for coming onto the podcast with me today.
No problem.
So, how would you describe fandom?
For me, a fandom is, I guess, a community of people who, you know, they share a kind of common love for something. And I guess what people mostly associate fandoms with is, I guess, the geek universe. So I guess movies, TV shows, things like that. But really, a fandom can be a group of people that share a love for anything, really.
Okay, and what fandoms are you into?
Oh my goodness, so many fandoms. If I had to pick the main ones, I'd say I'm a part of the Supernatural fandom, the Assassin's Creed fandom, I guess, because that's like my favorite game, and the Marvel fandom, I suppose.
Okay. Now, how did you get into the Supernatural or the Supernatural show? Because for me, it's very daunting looking at it, and I'm like, there's so many seasons. I didn't start watching it until a certain actress appeared on it, Felicia Day, when she was portraying Charlie, and I watched all of her episodes, but going back and watching the 10 or 11 seasons is really daunting.
Yeah, it kind of is. When I started watching it, there were only 6 seasons out, which is still quite a bit considering. Yeah, I got into Supernatural when there was about 6 seasons out, and I had a friend who loved the show, and she kept telling me about it. And I started watching it because I kept telling her that I would, and I just kind of fell in love with it. I just fell in love with the characters and with the whole theme of the show, and I just kept watching it from there. And eventually, I got into the fandom after I watched the gag reel for the first season,
Hmm.
which they kind of put out a gag reel for every season, and I laughed so much, and I just from there I kind of wanted to, I guess, delve more into kind of the not just the show itself, but kind of the actors involved and everything. So I kind of I just went on YouTube and I watched a bunch of interviews and a bunch of um, convention panels that they did, and from there I guess I just sort of became a part of the fandom, I guess, and I started to meet more people through it. So
What drew you to that show once you started watching it? Was it the characters, the story,
it
anything
was
in particular?
it was a bit of everything, really. I up till then I'd always kind of watched the shows that I watched were kind of quite. They didn't really have a heavy plot line or a theme. They were just sort of like sitcoms and things like that. And that was the first like major kind of show with an ongoing plot line that I watched. And I really liked I liked how it's. I mean, obviously it's named after it's supernatural. I like that it kind of delved into kind of lore and like local legends and things like that. And I really like the characters as well. I mean, they're really funny and they're really cool, and I just really enjoyed watching it.
Do you have a favorite character on that show?
Oh my goodness. Ooh, that is a tough question. I'm gonna say Castiel. I think Cass is my favorite.
And why do you like him as your favorite?
It's Misha Collins, man. He's awesome. No, I I don't know. I like that he's quite sort of he's very naive and it's and innocent, but then it's quite funny the way he doesn't understand certain things. And I don't know. I just really like the character.
Okay. Is there a particular season that you think is the best out of what has been presented so far? Like, is there one where you can pinpoint to and be like, that was the best season of Supernatural?
Ooh, season 5. I think season 5 was quite a story wise. It was quite heavy, and it was also one of the more upsetting seasons. Just a lot of things happened, but that is probably the most memorable for me, I think. So yeah, season 5.
Okay. And if someone was trying to get into the show like me,
Mhm.
would you recommend going all the way back to the first season, or would you say, okay, you can skip to, say, like season 2 or season 3?
I would recommend starting from the beginning, but that's just me. I like to start things from the beginning so that I'm aware of everything that's gone on. If you're
Right.
looking for sort of the main plot line, I guess you could probably skip the first 2 seasons because the first 2 seasons, every episode focuses on one piece of lore or like one legend. It doesn't kind of have an ongoing theme, I guess. But I honestly, personally, would recommend starting from the beginning because there's so much humor in the first season that you would miss out on if you skipped it. So it's worth it just for the comedy.
Okay. And there is the mixture of action and like drama and comedy
Yeah,
in this
definitely.
show. Okay. Is there a character on the show that you feel is underrated from the supernatural community?
Oh wow. In the supernatural community specifically, I think I don't know. I think every character receives a lot of love, especially from the fandom. They call it the supernatural family, and that's basically what all the actors and the fans treat it as. So I think they all get a lot of love. But I would probably say Baltazar. I don't know if you're
Okay.
aware of who Baltazar is. He's one of the angels. and he's not in that many episodes, but he is definitely one of my absolute favorites.
Okay. I'm definitely, it's on my list to watch. I mean, luckily it's on Netflix, and I want to watch it, but just all those seasons looking at me and saying how much time I would have to put in to catch up on it.
Yeah, it is a lot. But honestly, it's once you get into it, you'll find that you just want to keep watching. It's so good. It really draws you in.
Okay. Is there I know that I've heard stories about the supernatural fandom being a bit crazy. Is that true in your case? Like, have you seen that the supernatural fans get like sometimes maybe a bit extreme, or that there's like maybe it's just a subsection of them, a group of them?
I mean, personally, I've seen it happen in more than just one fandom. Um, I know that there are some sort of, extreme um, people in the supernatural fandom. I've never encountered one myself, but I have heard of them. But I mean, like I said, that happens in every fandom. You always have the sort of small group of fans that just want everything to be the way they perceive it, and you get that in every group of people. So I don't really, I try not to pay too much attention to that. I think that as long as you enjoy the show and that you enjoy, the the sort of the fandom as a fandom rather than as something that you kind of obsess over, then it's great. It's good fun, and that's what I
Okay.
try to do.
And another thing that you mentioned is a video game series that has taken place over a number of video games, and that's the Assassin's Creed series.
Yes.
And I've not played it. I'm not really good at playing those action adventure type of games, but I
Okay.
enjoy getting to watch people play it. If
Right.
you like watching it on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
What drew you to that series when it came out? Was it the first game? Did you get into it with a certain game?
I got into it actually from the third game, which is it's called Brotherhood. Um, but then after playing that at a friend's house, I went back and tried the first game. And what really drew me into that was the fact that um, it was set in what is now known as Palestine. And me being an Arab, that really appealed to me. And honestly, just the story behind it, it's beautiful and it's heartbreaking. And I'm just a sucker for a good storyline. So I really loved the story behind the Assassin's Creed games. And the more I played, the more I kind of delved into their world and everything. And I really, really enjoyed it.
Now the stories all link up between the games, correct?
Kind of, yeah. They sort of, each assassin is a descendant from the one before,
Okay.
or a descendant of, of that generation. So it moves up through the generations. So yeah, in that sense, they do kind of all link up. Yeah.
Okay. So you have the characters that are related to each other somehow.
Yeah.
And then with the story isn't linked anymore. I Because I had heard that the first one had like a weird ending to it, and then
Yeah.
the second one maybe continued that, but
Yeah, that.
not.
I mean, yeah, some of them, as I said, they're all kind of descendants of, I guess, the general, like the assassins as a whole, are like a kind of a group, and it follows that group, as I said, through the generations. So it starts off, you know, hundreds of years ago, and then now we have Syndicate, which is set in, I think it's the Victorian era. I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
So it has kind of gone through the generations. But yeah, the first game had. I'm not going to say too much. I don't want to spoil it for anyone. But it had a specific plot line that you sort of find out about at the end, and the second and third games follow on from that. And they
Okay.
take that part of the story and they continue it, but with a new character.
Is there a particular game that you like the best out of that series?
Ooh, Assassin's Creed 2. Definitely. 2 and also Revelations. I love those two games.
What was it about those that stood them apart from the others?
Number two for me, number two is the introduction of Ezio, who is my favorite assassin. And he's the one that I've cosplayed a few times. And I just loved his character. And again, it was to do with the storyline. You basically his story is kind of essentially one of revenge, but then along the way he kind of realizes that revenge isn't going to be enough to to kind of satisfy him. You know what I mean? So it does have quite a heartbreaking story, and I really like that. Um, Aside from that, I just really like the character, which is why Revelations is one of my favorites because Revelations is the same character. It's still Ezio, but when he's a lot older.
Mm-hmm.
So he considers at one point retiring, and I just love the transition between him as a young kid to him as an older man, and the way he kind of his thought process has changed, and I just really loved following his story.
I know that it's a lot of people have really enjoyed the series. And then I always read the reviews like, oh, the camera angles or the controls, or
Yeah.
there's always something. But I do enjoy getting to read about the story and then watching people play it on YouTube.
Mhm.
Uh, it's just it seems like it's a great series. They always have one coming out, it seems like every year, every other year.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It's
it's
fun though.
definitely something.
It's definitely something to look forward to, especially being a longtime fan. When you
Right,
hear about the new
exactly.
one coming out, it's such a rush of excitement.
I remember when they had the pictures come out for Black Flag,
Yes.
and people were psyched about like getting to be an assassin pirate
Yeah.
kind of character. And I like just those people and their enthusiasm was like, wow, like they're they're just looking forward to it from a picture. They haven't even played the game
Yeah.
yet.
I mean, some people love Ubisoft, the company that kind of makes it, and some people hate them. But those who love them, they really enjoy the different storylines that they bring, and that's one of the main things that I love about the Assassin's Creed games.
And we had talked about a book series that you are into, and it's
Yes.
called the Lorien Legacies, and people might know it from the movie that came out a couple years ago called I Am Number Four.
Yeah.
Tell me about the book series.
Oh my goodness. The book series is essentially about a group of young kids who have come from the planet Lorien, and they were brought to Earth as youngsters, and basically were split up. And each person has a carer, and they were just taken to different places around the world, and essentially kept apart until until the right time when they were supposed to come together and try and go back to their planet and save it. And the story essentially starts off following a kid called John, who is the fourth out of the nine, and he the story is told from his perspective, so you see everything from the mind of a teenage guy, a teenage boy, and the struggles that he has. And I just really loved reading it because it kind of has like a sci-fi feel because of obviously the whole aliens kind of thing going on. But then you also have a very kind of real life vibe from it because just reading about the struggles he gets bullied in school and things like that, and he has to kind of figure out how to stay off the radar and things, and then they get hunted, and it's just action packed, and it's amazing. I
Oh,
really really love those books.
okay. Did you watch the movie that came out? I was just curious.
I did, yeah. I'm probably one of the few people that really liked the movie.
Was it faithful to the book, or did it take a few liberties or cut out things where people were upset about?
It did definitely take a few, yeah. It did cut a few things out that may have benefited the film, but obviously with movies, you always have to have cuts.
Mm-hmm.
You can't take a book and just put it on screen as it is. You have to kind of keep the film moving and keep the story going. And so yeah,
Right.
so I guess there were a few things that they could have left in, but personally, I still like the movie, and I feel like if they continued it on with the amount of books that there are now in the series, I thought it would be really good. But I guess I guess that wasn't the opinion of the majority of people.
Okay. Is it still on an ongoing book series, or is it finished now?
I believe. See, I haven't read the most recent one. I think there was maybe one more left coming out. There's been quite a few. Um, there's been, I think, 6 or 7 books. Uh, but yeah, I think they're planning on ending it soon to focus on a different. The author wants to focus on a different book series. But it's as I said, it's been quite a few books, so it is pretty cool. Um,
Okay.
yeah.
Is I Am Number 4 your favorite of the series, or is there a different book that you enjoy out of that series?
Ooh, I really enjoyed the third book. It's called The Rise of Nine. That was
Okay.
probably my favorite. Again, just with the story, it gets really intense in that book, and a lot of plot twists come out that you did not expect. So I really enjoyed that book.
And I have to ask, is 4 your favorite of the aliens, or is there another one that you enjoy as your favorite character?
Mm, Out of the guys, I would say yes, four is my favorite. Out of the girls, there is another character. And I'm not going to mention who it is in case anyone wants to read the series, but you'll find out about them later
Okay.
on.
Does each book take place from 4's perspective, or does it jump around with each book?
No. Each after the second book, it starts splitting. So the you'll have different chapters, and the chapters start becoming from other of the Loric's perspectives. So as I said, there are 9 of them.
Mm-hmm.
So the first book is purely from Four's perspective. The second book is from Four's and Six's, and then the third book kind of transitions into 3 characters, and it goes on from there.
Okay.
And it sticks, I believe, to those 3. I think it sticks to those 3 for the next couple of books. As I said, I haven't read the most recent one though, so I can't tell if the next one has any more characters involved or not.
Gotcha. Okay. And you had also said that you're into Marvel.
Yes.
Is it the movies, comics, TV shows, like Netflix shows, everything
It's
as listed
everything.
above?
Everything, yeah, all of the above.
Is there a particular character that is your favorite out of like in the Marvel universe?
That is not an easy question to answer, my friend.
Especially with the amount of Marvel characters that there are to begin
Exactly,
with.
exactly. I really like the X-Men
Hmm.
and all the kind of the mutants. I think they're amazing. But as far as kind of the superhero side of it, I really, really like Hawkeye. I think
Hawkeye.
yeah, he's probably my favorite.
Okay. Have you? I used to love Hawkeye. Way back when I was a kid, in when he was on a team. I don't even know if you know it. It's called the West Coast Avengers.
Oh, I've heard of it, but I've not read that series.
Yeah, it's way like I'm talking like 80. Like I remember reading it in the 80s,
Wow.
and because it was a team where he was kind of the leader of the West Coast Avengers. They're based out on the west coast of the United States,
All right.
and he was always one of those characters I was drawn to as a kid, and even now, in some of the more recent comics, I really enjoy what they've been doing with him.
Yeah.
Um, Disappointed a bit in the Marvel cinematic version, where like his first big role in the Avengers, he was just a mind controlled person,
Yeah.
but enjoyed him from then on.
Yeah, I like that they kind of brought him out a bit more after that. But no, I agree. I really, really liked his character in the comics, and I really wanted to see them because in the comics he's quite sassy, isn't he? He's quite
Oh
kind of
yeah.
sarcastic, and he's, and I wanted to see a bit more of that brought out in the cinematic universe. So I'm glad that they did that, especially with Age of Ultron.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed what they did with that. So
Yeah, in the comics, especially, a lot of the times in his Avengers run, he's always butting heads with Captain America.
yes, yes, he is.
So, I mean, they have a very, sometimes it can be almost antagonistic relationship with each
Yeah,
other
definitely.
where
Yeah.
they'll get into fights, and that's always something I enjoyed because I never was a Captain America fan growing up. I really like of the Avengers, it was always Hawkeye.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, definitely. I really enjoy how he's finally been expanded with the Avengers and
Yeah,
being in Civil War. I don't think he'll ever get his own movie, but as long as he keeps showing up in other movies, I'll be happy.
exactly. Me too.
And he won't be wearing the purple, Hawkeye outfit that he
Yeah.
has in the comics.
I think the mask might be a little impractical if he's trying to blend
Yeah, just a little bit.
in.
That in the purple.
Yeah.
How I found you to ask you to be on this podcast is that there was an article written about you on one of the blogs that I read. It's IO9
Yeah.
under the Gawker or formerly Gawker like umbrella, and they did a awesome article about you because you are a cosplayer, but you also incorporate uh, hijabs
Yeah.
into it, if I'm pronouncing it correctly.
You are. Yeah.
And I found that super fascinating. I really enjoyed all the pictures of your different cosplays. So, I guess my first question is how did you get into cosplay?
I got into cosplay through a friend at college. I always loved cosplay since I was a kid. I'd seen all these amazing people online, who would dress up and go to um, some of the bigger conventions around the world. But I had no idea that it was a thing that happened in the UK. Never mind locally. I had no idea. And then when I got into college and met my friend, they happened to be a cosplayer, and I asked to tag along to one of the events, and I just fell in love with it from there and kept going.
What is it about cosplay that you enjoy? I mean, is it getting to be different characters? Is it the crafting? Is it everything? Is it the community and the people you get to hang out with?
For me, it's a bit of everything. The three things that you just mentioned. I mean, I love kind of I seem to gain more confidence when I'm in costume and when I'm at an event. And I like that I can kind of sort of it's almost as if I'm living vicariously through this character that I'm cosplaying as through the day. So I do enjoy that aspect. The people, the community, they are probably the best thing about cosplaying. I love meeting the people, and I'm very, very lucky that I'm part of an amazing community of cosplayers and just geeks in general. And yes, the crafting is again one of my favorite parts. I really enjoy making things, and I like that I can put my creativity to some use because I've always kind of been the kind of person that I like to make things. I like to sew, I like to draw, but I never really had a reason to do it. I just did it for fun. But now
Mm-hmm.
I actually have a reason to kind of put all of my skills to use, but still have fun with it. So I guess that's just been a really good kind of outlet for me.
Okay. Is it difficult to incorporate the hijab into the cosplay? Like, do you pick characters and then you're like, oh man, how am I going to incorporate the hijab into it? Or is it always something where like you can see the character that you want to do and be like, okay, that's how I'm going to do it?
It's a bit of both, I guess. For me, sometimes there are characters that I really want to try and cosplay, but I can't seem to figure out a way to kind of make them more modest and suit, make them suit the hijab.
Hmm.
Um, and then sometimes there are characters that I pick, and I'm just like, I immediately know exactly how I want them to look and how I'm going to incorporate my hijab into them. So I guess it just depends on the character, really, and it depends on um, how much I'm willing to compromise in order to make it suit my style, but still have it as a recognizable character.
Right. What have been some of your favorite characters to do?
Um, I love doing Captain America, and clearly a lot of people really like that one as well. I also really enjoyed doing the Nightingale from Skyrim, and I also really like doing Ezio from Assassin's Creed because that one's like my main kind of. I guess that was my first ever hand designed one. Like I took only inspiration from the character. I didn't try and make anything that was specific to the character, and I kind of made it my own. Yeah.
Is there any characters that you have on your list that you want to cosplay, and you're just trying to figure it out or are working on them now?
Absolutely, there are so many. The ones that I'm working on at the minute are I'm trying to do Wonder Woman, um, but I'm doing sort of a custom design, um, and I'm also working on Gambit from the X-Men.
Oh,
But I'm
okay.
doing a sort of female version of him.
Mm-hmm.
So that one's sort of proving a challenge because of the body armor, but I'm getting there.
Okay.
I'm hoping to bring
And
those out early next year.
and you make all of the pieces for that, like for all of your cosplays?
I try to make as much of it as I can. There are some pieces that I can't make, so I do buy them. But I do, yes, I do try to make as much as I can, or at least modify things that I've bought.
I know one of the things I really enjoyed was getting to watch, uh, almost from start to finish, your creation of your katana cosplay from the Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
I liked getting to see you like work on it step by step to like the final I guess costume and all the pieces and everything. Like that was just really cool to watch.
Thank you. That was, like I said, that was one of the ones where I couldn't really make things that I
Hmm.
needed, so I kind of bought and modified them instead. But
Right.
yeah, I really enjoyed making Katana, and I'm hoping to use her more for events and things like that as well because she's a really fun character to cosplay.
What's the reception been like as a hijab cosplayer? Is it welcomed? Is there issues? Uh, like what's the response been, whether it's been at conventions or on the internet?
I'm very lucky that the reception has been pretty amazing for me being a hijabi cosplayer. Obviously, there are going to be some people that will, find, um, I guess, find fault in it or
Hmm.
maybe even feel offended by it. But for the most part, everyone's been so kind and so welcoming and like I said, I keep referring back to the cosplay community that I'm a part of. Um, they're just so supportive and they really do have my back and they're always feeding my creativity and making sure that I don't give up on what I do and and I've made a lot of close friends from that who have come to defend me when people have kind of said something that may be negative before I even
Hmm.
knew about it. They were already straight at them, and I'm very lucky. But no, most of it's been amazing. It's been very positive and very reassuring.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. I mean, I always enjoy seeing like different
Mhm.
cosplayers, the ones that do things just like straight up out like they change the character.
Yeah,
They change it to like a steampunk character or a futuristic version of the character,
yeah.
or they crochet their cosplays, or they like something major where it's totally different. And I was so happy to just come across the article about you because just your cosplays were tremendously wonderful to like look at and
Thank
see,
you.
and then just like you do it the way you do it, and I'm just I don't know, I'm just super appreciative that you can just do what you want to do, and hopefully the majority of people are like feel the same way that I do when they're like, you know, they look at it and they're just like, that's cool. And so I mean, I was really thrilled that it popped up and on my Facebook, and I was like, let me check it out, and it was just wonderful.
Thank you.
So, for people that are listening to the podcast, what are the best places for them to find you online?
I'm on Facebook at Hijabi Hooligan. That's where I usually do most of my where I post most about my cosplays, the conventions I attend, photo shoots, etc.
Mm-hmm.
I am on Instagram and Snapchat. You can find me on Instagram. If you just search my full name, Dania Khalil, you'll find me there. Again, that's I do post about my cosplays there, but that's more of a personal Instagram. So,
Okay.
but I'm more than happy to. I mean, I follow a lot of cosplayers on there, and I talk to them quite a bit. So I'm more than happy to have people, contact me about stuff there.
And again, for those maybe that are wondering, do you travel? Like, are you invited to conventions yet to like be in their cosplay group or panel, or are you just attending conventions like as a fan?
I have done both. I'm still mainly going as a fan, but I have been very lucky that I was invited to be a guest at a few events, at some of the Unleashed events, which is it's a bunch of conventions that are run by an amazing group of people, sort of local to my area, and
Mm-hmm.
they do some further across the UK. But yeah, I was just recently invited as Katana to be a cosplay guest at Teesside Unleashed, which is my second guest spot with them.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm doing a bit of both. I still do attend events as a fan, but every now and again, if I'm asked to be a guest, then I'm more than happy to.
Awesome. Well, Danya, I really want to thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to record this episode with me. It was great to have you. I was psyched when you responded. I was like, yeah, she wrote back.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Well, I want to just say thank you again. Everyone go check out Danya's Facebook page at Hijabi Hooligan. You'll find the links on the Facebook page for Tales from the Fandom, as well as on the podcast that you're listening to.
Thank you for listening to Tales from the Fandom. Subscribe to us on iTunes or your podcast app of choice. Follow us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/Tales from the Fandom to see photos, links, leave feedback, and check out upcoming guests. If you'd like to be a guest, email David at talesfromthefandom@gmail.com.